Hello, dear viewers of the Anything Can Happen in America news, where every day American politics is like a soap opera, written by none other than Donald J. Trump. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, today we are not talking about rising egg prices, nor about Elon Musk arguing with himself on Twitter, but about a nationwide protest movement called Hands Off, which roughly translates to "Get away from me." In less than a month, more than 1,400 protests have taken place from New York to California, from Ivy League universities to small Midwestern street corners. People are not taking to the streets out of pure anger, but because they feel touched at the very roots of what is called American freedom. The reason? None other than the second Trump administration, with a series of policies that make Americans feel like they have just woken up from a dream, with the monster being their government. And like a horror movie, the more they try to hide, the more the monster reaches out to sign new decrees. So what exactly is America protesting about? Who is it for? And how is Trump reacting? Please join me for 10 minutes of truth, irony, and a little bit of sarcasm, indispensable in American politics today. In January 2025, Donald J. Trump, the former president, the current president, and the future former president, officially returned to the White House. And within the first few weeks, the American people suddenly discovered time was not moving forward, but backward. Trump did not come to talk about reconciliation. He came like a demolition contractor bringing a whole fleet of cranes, not to build, but to clean up the swamp by firing most of its residents. In the first 100 days alone, more than 275,000 federal employees were laid off. No warning, no lengthy explanation, just a cold email. "Thank you for your service. The country doesn't need you anymore." It was not only the largest layoff in U.S. government history, but also the workplace version of a survival movie. Today you're an environmental inspector. Tomorrow you're an Uber driver. But the layoffs were just the beginning. What brought people to the streets was what came next. The Trump administration's rollback of programs on diversity, gender equality, immigration support, and efforts to create a non-discriminatory workplace. In the blink of an eye, what had taken more than 30 years to build was blown away like a soap bubble in a Fox News press conference. And if you think these policies only affect a minority of people, sorry, you're wrong. Their impact spreads like boiling water on instant noodles. Big, hot, and everyone gets burned. When you touch the jobs, the rights, the identities, and the futures of millions of people, don't be surprised when they respond by taking to the streets by the millions. Not because they hate Trump, but because they fear the government he leads. And fear, ladies and gentlemen, is the only thing Americans love to turn into action. So what is Hands Off? A new song? A viral TikTok dance? It's the American people's sharp response to the Trump administration, "Don't touch me." The hands-off movement is not partisan, nor is it funded by a billionaire. It's a collective cry from people who don't know each other, but who feel that the government, rather than protecting them, is taking away the rights they've spent decades winning. Are you a middle-aged civil servant at the Environmental Protection Agency? Hands off my career. Are you a transgender student at Florida State University? Hands off my identity. Are you a black professor teaching the history of slavery? Hands off my truth. And if you're a freedom-loving cat, hands off my litter box. The Trump administration doesn't just want to control the bureaucracy, it wants to control words. Words like diversity, gender equality, gender identity, inclusion, once standard corporate language, are suddenly branded as progressive woke and purged like medieval banned books. For many Americans, this is no longer a political issue. It's a matter of survival. A transgender person can't be fired for being authentic. A black teacher can't be silenced for teaching about colonialism. A legal immigrant worker can't be shut out of the system because their name is hard to pronounce. The hands off movement is a clear statement. Don't think that your power gives you the right to touch the human part of me, because power, whether executive or legal, cannot define human dignity. Hands off is not just a slogan, it's a line drawn. It's millions of people saying at the same time, you can be president, you can sign executive orders, but you don't have the right to rewrite who I am. And like every Hollywood action movie, and when the people revolt, the main villain takes to TikTok to fight back. To Truth Social. In the face of massive protests, Trump didn't back down. He went into full attack mode. In a speech in Texas, he declared bluntly, "They're not protesting for freedom. They're rioting because they want to return to the era of Marxism." Yes, in Trump's political dictionary, anyone who demands human rights is either a communist, a traitor, or a high school teacher. All three are equally dangerous. Trump didn't stop with words, issuing a new executive order authorizing the Justice Department to investigate organizations, schools, and businesses deemed to be undermining American principles. That is, anyone who dares to fly a rainbow flag or hang Black Lives Matter slogans in their hallways. And for young people, Trump vowed to cut off federal funding to any college that harbors radical ideology. In other words, if you studied sociology, human rights, or, God forbid, communications, then, sorry, you just finished a career that's been blacklisted by the White House. And as Trump has always done, he divided the protesters into two groups. Group 1, the brainwashed by the progressive media. Group 2, the ungrateful to America. No matter which group you belong to, you get a one-way ticket to Venezuela. It's a fantasy, but it's a bit like he's telling the truth. Trump doesn't want dialogue. He wants to shut down. And in Trump brand politics, shutting down isn't just about dispersing crowds. It's about silencing voices, shutting down programs, and scaring people into thinking differently. But there's one thing Trump seems to forget. Americans can tolerate a lot of things. Inflation, low wages, even bad Starbucks coffee. But there's one thing they can't tolerate: being silenced. When people took to the streets, the government thought it was just a temporary rage, but they were wrong. This was not a march. This was a collective awakening. After the mass layoffs, after the academic crackdown, after hundreds of punitive investigations, what Trump feared most was not the protesters, but what came next. Scientists who lost their jobs opened up independent research networks. Evicted teachers taught classes on YouTube that attracted millions of views. Migrant workers who were cut off from the system organized themselves, and students whose scholarships were cut became community organizers. Trump thought he could shut down the system, that he could stop the dream. But he forgot one thing. The American dream does not live in government offices. It lives in the hearts of every citizen. At this point, hands off is no longer a slogan. It has become an ecosystem of resistance, a movement built on faith, on courage, and on a very American question: who really owns this America? People used to say, politics is an elite business, but 2025 is showing politics is something that seeps into every breath, every electricity bill, every canceled class, every dream blocked by a line of policy. And when the American people realize they have everything to lose, they also realize one thing: with nothing left to lose, there is nothing left to fear. This protest is not the end, it is the beginning. Because if Trump wants to remake America in his image, then millions of people are remaking themselves, not in the image of any president, but in the image of a truly free nation. You may lose your job, you may be silenced, you may be intimidated, but you still have the right to go out and say, hands off my body, hands off my voice, hands off my America. If you believe that freedom should not be signed away by a single decree, if you believe that the right to be yourself should not be subject to censorship, if you're thinking to yourself, hands off, then share this video. Don't let this voice stop here. Subscribe so that every time the government tightens its grip, we can all tighten our ranks together. Share this video, not for the channel, but for the community that needs to know. We still have each other.